This year, according to the South Dakota Department of Health, 3 people have died from kratom. That's 2 more than last year. It's perfectly legal to buy kratom, which comes from a plant, and there's a lot of money behind the effort to keep it that way. Tonight, KELOLAND's Angela Kennedy talks with a family grieving the loss of 27-year-old Jacob Helmbrecht, whose primary cause of death, as ruled by the Minnehaha County coroner, is kratom. But the kratom lobby claims that supplement is never the cause of death, and the coroners are getting it wrong.
27-year-old Jake Helmbrecht's personality was about as big as his size.
He was, 6'4", a big guy, but when he came over, the couch was his, and there was no one moving him.
You always hang around me?
He had a heart that was golden and true.
There wasn't a time that I would say no to go hang out with him, because he would just light up the room, and his laugh was one of the best things.
However, Jake suffered from severe social anxiety and discovered in college that drinking helped. He struggled with alcoholism most of his adult life. He'd been through treatment once but went back to drinking. Then in January, something changed.
I remember looking up to the sky and saying, God, I need to hear from Jake today. All of a sudden my phone rang, and it was him, and he said, Mom, I need help.
He was ready. He called and he said, you got to come now. Please come now.
Jake went into Keystone for treatment and then entered a sober living home where he appeared to be doing well.
His eyes were bright. He was happy. He was a different kid.
But in the back of their minds, his family was always concerned about relapse.
I always worried about him was I going to get a call one day that he was gone?
That dreaded call came on Sunday, July 26th. But it wasn't alcohol poisoning that killed him. According to his official autopsy report, Jake's accidental death was caused by mitragynine toxicity.
What? What is this?
Mitragynine is the compound in the plant known as kratom. Jake's family says texts on his phone show he bought kratom capsules legally from a store just a few days earlier, hoping they would help his anxiety.
If he would have known what the risk was, he wouldn't have took it.
Jake's toxicology report shows he had a non-significant level of ethanol, therapeutic levels of antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs and heart medication, and some caffeine and nicotine in his system. The report states that there was a fatal level of mitragynine in his blood.
The coroner said that was the main cause of death.
However, the national lobbying group that wants to keep the substance legal disputes any medical report issued stating that kratom is the cause of death.
We're saying that it is not a conclusion that is valid to say that kratom is the cause of a death. There are other contributing factors, just as there are in many other factors in deaths that are there.
Jake was overweight and was on blood pressure medication. The American Kratom Association claims that coroners across the nation have been unduly influenced by the Food and Drug Administration, which says there are no approved uses for kratom and warns of its dangers.
But to call it the cause of death is wrong, and they should retract that statement.
Haddo is a lobbyist, not a medical doctor.
Do you think kratom killed him?
100%. Per the autopsy and per the toxicology, it was accidental, and it was kratom.
Jake's family believes had the South Dakota legislature approved a ban of kratom, which was brought up in the 2020 session, Jake may still be alive.
When I drive around this town and I tear up. All I see is kratom, kratom, kratom. And my heart just sinks. My heart sinks. And I think if we can save someone's life.
If you could put a sign next to that sign, what would your sign say?
I put a big sign of this picture on there and just say, Kratom killed him. We killed him.
The family plans to ask the legislature to consider regulating or banning kratom next year. They hope by telling his story, people will be more cautious when it comes to the use of this legal substance.
I feel him all the time. I believe he's here right now and helping us through this. And I'm just going to say, I want justice for Jake.
We asked the Minnehaha County coroner, Dr. Kenneth Snell, if anything else could have caused Jake's death, and he told us if the other drugs contributed, they would be listed as a contributory to the cause of death final statement, which they were not. If you'd like to see the first part of our investigation into the kratom controversy, where we talked with a man who says he's been safely using kratom for a decade, and look into the kratom lobby's battle with the FDA, just go to this story on KELOLAND.com.
The DEA announced that it planned to reclassify kratom as a Schedule I drug in 2016, but backed down after major public backlash.